On the near side of him lay, gleaming on the ground, his elven blade, where it had fallen useless from his grasp. Sam did not wait to wonder what was to be done, or whether he was brave or loyal or filled with rage. He sprang forward with a yell and seized his master's sword in his left hand. Then he charged. No onslaught more fierce was ever seen in the savage world of beasts, where some desperate small creature armed with little teeth, alone, will spring upon a tower of horn and hide that stands above its fallen mate.
Welcome to the Wayward Wizards radio program. Today we are reading Book 4, Chapter 10, The Choices of Master Samwise. I'm Zach. That's Logan. Thanks for tuning in. Logan, what a chapter.
This is, the last two chapters, right?
We always say it. Dang, this is what you sign up for, baby.
As I was reading this chapter in preparation for the podcast, I was transported back to the first time I read this. I want to say I was reading it in class. We used to have like a reading period in school.
Like 30-minute quiet reading time.
Yeah, it's like my favorite part of school.
Best.
This is the best. I wish we should have a national everybody shut the up and read a book for 30 minutes. It would be a better country.
Adults and children, yes.
Everybody stop.
Yeah.
And if you don't stop, you get arrested and thrown in jail. Thrown to Sheloff. But anyway, I'm reading it, and Sam thinks Frodo is dead, and he is composing the body, and he's debating with himself what to do, and he decides finally to take the ring. He kisses Frodo's forehead, which is what Aragorn does with Boromir, right?
Yeah, and what Faramir does to Frodo and Sam when they leave.
Right. So it's sort of a blessing. And I remember being in class, like crying, not like sobbing, right? But tears like in my eyes. And I was taken right back there. And the way, this is true of all literature, but the way that you can be like transported to a place.
Yeah.
Just by looking at these little squiggles on a page.
Yeah, it's freaking magic, dude.
Is magic. It's magic.
It's like actually magic.
And I also remember realizing at that moment, like, Sam is the hero of this book.
Yeah.
Like realizing it then,
Yeah.
And it hit me just as hard. It hit me just as hard this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's it's the way that it's woven through all the excitement and the violence and the terror, these like tender moments within just the excitement of plot and action. It doesn't get better. It just doesn't,
So special. You said that, you realized when you were a kid that Sam is really the hero. I think that's really insightful of you as a kid reading this, because I don't think I realized that until I read Tolkien's letters. He all but explicitly says that Sam is the actual hero.
Yeah.
That Frodo is kind of like too elevated.
Right.
Gandalf has his like moment of sacrifice, but he's not like in any way the protagonist of the story.
No.
The person that we're supposed to like be most identified with and inspired by is Sam. And it's he's the character that maps most cleanly onto the hero's journey.
Right.
He's the character who's most changed. And when he returns home, he is the hero in that Joseph Campbell schema. I was struck by sort of the journey that we're brought on with Sam's own thoughts and just how wildly he shifts from like different stages of grief.
Amazing. Yeah.
He goes from a moment of sheer terror chasing after Frodo, this moment of incredible heroism defeating Shelob in battle, which no one has done. So much so that his like, by the time we meet the orc characters at the end of this chapter, he already has become this like
a legend. Yeah.
this elf warrior in their minds. You know, he's
Mm-hmm.
like his legend has grown even just in like the few minutes between his deed and them arriving. We see him not wanting to accept that Frodo is dead and trying to get him to wake up, you know, which is just terrifying, sad. And then him being furious and like stamping around and like beating stones
Yes,
and
just screaming at the environment, you know? Yeah.
then sitting down and shrouding himself with his cloak and just sitting silent for,
He falls asleep almost. He
yeah,
kind of
he
just
almost like,
collapses.
yeah. And he just sits there for God knows how long. Then he has this moment of like self-doubt of like, oh, what am I supposed to do here? Like, he's like, I can't bear this thing. But he's like, but I have to. And he decides to take on the ring. And so there's like an incredible amount of courage involved in that.
Yeah.
But then by the time he leaves Frodo's body, he's barely able to get like a short distance away before he changes his mind. And he's like, no, actually, my whole purpose is to like never leave Frodo ever. Like, that's what my job is. It's not to be the ring bearer. It's to never leave Frodo ever. And so he changes his mind, which in a lot of ways, I think is like almost like more courageous
Yeah.
than choosing to be the hero.
To change his mind and to not see himself as the owner or the
only one who can do it.
the only one who can do it. I mean, he's not like, his ego isn't developed like that or something, but he also, I mean, he in that moment he also chooses not to keep the ring.
Exactly.
I know he doesn't have it long, but the fact that he chooses that, you know, makes him the second person ever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right?
I mean,
After
when he meets
Bilbo.
Frodo later, he gives it up willingly. Yeah, he gives
So
it back to Frodo.
maybe he's a little bit more like Bilbo than Frodo is. You know?
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think that's so true.
In the way that he's heroic, you know, in that respect. And gosh, it's just so. It's also though masterful that I guess I've never read another book that kind of hides its
Hero that way.
its true protagonist until like 2/3 of the way through the book.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just not a good enough reader, but like, you know, it to like shelter Sam in that way, and then to have him like step forward, and then you like think back all the way to the Shire, and you're like, whoa, like it was about Sam. It was about Sam this whole time.
He's been there from the beginning. Yeah.
And it's about me, you know. That's the other piece, and maybe that's why it's so powerful, that it's about the reader being drawn into the story through this character of Sam.
You know, and of course it's a complex book, and it doesn't follow like, there doesn't have to be just one hero in the story. You know, there's
no, of course not.
You know, Merry and Pippin, they have an incredible transformation throughout the story. Aragorn, you know, for all that we've pointed out that there's less of a like arc to Aragorn in the books than there is in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, he's always like ready to become the king in the books.
Right.
But he changes. You know, he doesn't stay the same. Gimli and Legolas, like the hardness of their hearts softening and becoming friends.
Yeah, they go from being like racists to being
yeah, best of friends.
Best friends who like advocate for their people, like having, you know, relationships. And I mean, yeah, amazing.
So, I mean, it's not like we can't like be like, okay, Sam is the only hero. It's just, I think it's just some really complex stuff that's going on here. I think Tolkien allowing Sam to kind of rise to the top. It's a really, really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And you also see like, so like Sam's strength is that he never gives up on Frodo. That's what makes Sam a hero. It's not that he's going to walk to the cracks of doom on his own, even though like, to his credit, he considers that, like, he would do that. But he has this moment of realization where he's just like, it was never for me to be the ring bearer.
Yeah.
It's not who I am. Like, he knows his strength. He knows his role. And he's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be with Frodo. And the quest is going to be lost, but all have like kept up my oath and never leaving Frodo. And that's exactly what lets the quest succeed, is him refusing to give up on that oath.
Yeah, I mean, it's faithfulness, right? It's steadfastness, loyalty.
Yeah.
It's like dedication to something bigger than yourself, outside yourself. It's about neighborliness, like they're like literally neighbors, right?
Yeah.
And in the character of Sam, sorry,
Okay.
I'm emotional.
It's all right.
Through all of our academic and theological devices, we make this simple thing more complicated than it has to be. And Tolkien through this character of Sam, who we are repeatedly told is incredibly simple, if not kind of stupid.
He's a simple boy.
Oh, Sam, you're just a simple boy.
He's just a simple boy.
We're told repeatedly that he's simple, and I think it's kind of a way, and there's a way that Tolkien is saying, like, this is simple. This gospel is simple and easy to understand, and anything that tries to complicate it is kind of a lie. And so, anyway, it's man, it's a hell of a book, and
It's
we're
a hell
only
of a book.
we're only 2/3 of the way through it. I'm so pleased that we get more to read more.
There's so much great stuff coming. Before we jump into the close reading, just wanted to thank everybody who listens. This has been such a incredible journey thus far.
Yeah.
After this episode, we're going to take a longish break, 4 weeks, do some more research, take a little rest ourselves, and then we'll be back with Return of the King. If you like the podcast, the best thing that you can do for us is to pause the pod and give a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave a review. Just a couple sentences, say what you like about it. But thank you for being on this journey with us. And yeah, we're pushing through the end, 2/3 of the way through.
Are we going to jump? Is that our plan here?
Yeah, let's jump. So we just left Sam trying his darndest to murder Gollum and Gollum getting away. He's cracked that staff of Faramir over Gollum's back so hard that it splits. And he ran after him, like ready to commit murder. And then he remembers, oh, there's a monster chasing after Frodo. Better go check up on that. So Sam runs after Frodo, and he sees that Frodo is lying face upward on the ground, and that the monster Shelob is bending over him. And he has this moment of incredible bravery, courage, which is what we started the podcast reading today, where he just charges at Shelob. And I kind of just I made some notes in my margins here, just all the things that he does to Shelob. So he charges after her. It says, no onslaught more fierce was ever seen in the savage world of beasts, where some desperate small creature, armed with little teeth alone, will spring upon a tower of horn and hide that stands above its fallen mate. Incredible sentence. He slices at her foot and cuts off a claw. Then he thrusts his sword and stabs at a cluster of her eyes. And it says one of her eyes went out.
Yeah, it hits one of them.
So he cuts off a foot. Then he cuts off an eye. Then he slashes at her belly. And at first read, it sounds like it didn't do much, but it sinks in deep. And it says he slashed the bright elven blade across her with desperate strength, and it causes a dreadful gash through her hideous folds that could not have been pierced by the strength of men, not elf or dwarf, not even the hand of Baron or Turin. So this little guy, he makes this big gash in her stomach. So it's saying it's not, there was no weak spot in her. He couldn't have killed her that way. But he makes his gash, and it says poison frothed and bubbled from the wound.
Yeah.
So he hurts her, so much so that she lifts up her body.
Yeah, it makes her react to him, right? Right.
Well, she's going to just like dive bomb him. It says that she lifts up her body and she drives her huge bulk down on him. But Sam puts both hands on Sting, holds it above his head, and she dives down onto the blade. And I wanted to just read this. And so Shelob, with the driving force of her own cruel will, with strength greater than any warrior's hand, thrust herself upon a bitter spike. Deep, deep it pricked, as Sam was crushed slowly to the ground. It doesn't seem to kill her, and there's some speculation from the narrator in a minute.
Yeah,
that
maybe she recovers somehow.
But yeah, he stronger than any other. So the two warriors that he mentions, Baron and Turin, we've heard of Baron a bunch of times. Turin is another one of the stories from the Silmarillion. It's one of Tolkien's oldest stories. It's kind of his like Oedipus story.
Oh yeah.
It's about a man who his father was cursed by Morgoth. He's raised among elves. He becomes a strong warrior, but through a turn of events that's not worth getting into, he accidentally marries his own sister. And then he kills himself by falling on his own sword. So I think there's some parallelism happening here with like what Sam considers here in a moment in his desperation. But Sam makes a different choice than Turin. But Turin is the greatest of warriors in all of Tolkien's legendarium, the greatest of men warriors. In fact, one version of the story of the end of time is that at the end of time, Morgoth will come back and there'll be like a great battle.
Yeah.
And Turin-Turambar will make the final blow that kills him.
Oh, interesting.
So Turin is like kind of this like cosmic warrior.
The greatest warrior. Yeah.
And like the warrior who is harmed the most by Morgoth personally.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Because of this terrible curse where he accidentally marries his own sister. So I think it's an interesting throwback.
I think it's, I'm sure you noted this as well, but I love that there's an allusion here to Smaug.
Yeah, that it's not like that she wasn't like a dragon.
Yeah, but Shelob was not as dragons are. No softer spot had she save only her eyes.
Yeah.
It's like the narrator trying to tell us, like, what's the most dangerous thing you could think of?
Dragon.
A dragon.
Yeah.
But he's like, but you guys know a story about a dragon.
Yeah, and it got taken out by an arrow.
It got taken out by an arrow, but an arrow's not going to take out Shelob. And so for Sam, Sam really is like a hero out of legend. It's not just the orc's interpretation. It's that he actually is, in his defense of Frodo, he really does rise to that level where the elves will sing songs about this.
Yeah, not even Baron or Turin could do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Only Sam. And it's such a theme, and we've identified this, I think, basically every time it comes up. And it comes up again in this chapter with, I think, some of the evidence of like division among the orcs. Shelob undoes herself.
Yeah.
Gollum last chapter, if he hadn't taken the time to gloat, he could have killed Sam really easily.
Right.
But he kind of just can't help himself in his evil. Here Shelob undoes herself as well. She's the one who actually has the blow that kills her. It's not Sam. She throws herself down on the spike. Well, I guess she doesn't kill herself, but she throws herself down on the spike. It's what undoes her.
She defeats herself in this moment, at least. Yeah. And it says that she never felt pain
like it. Yeah.
Like it.
Not the doughtiest soldier of old Gondor, nor the most savage orc entrapped had ever thus endured her or set blade to her beloved flesh. So she's never experienced this before.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, but she's not done. So one thing I wanted to point out, and I think we're not the first people to point this out. She's not exactly a spider, is she? Because it says that she has a beak, and that she has a stinger, and spiders don't have stingers.
Well, I sort of wondered. I wondered this before. Does Tolkien exactly know how spiders work?
I don't know.
You know
Yeah,
what I
I think
mean?
he does. I think he does.
I think
This
he
is just like
must.
yeah,
And later on, it says that she wants meat, but also the orcs say that she wants to suck warm blood, not
yeah,
dead
yeah.
flesh or
Not
whatever.
dead. Yeah.
And so that's I mean, but and it's sort of what spiders do.
Isn't that what spiders do to flies? Like when they catch them, they
Well, and
sort of like keep them
I'm not clear
alive.
on, do they? I know that they like wrap them up, they keep them alive, and that they. But then does like the fly dissolve in the, or do they just like suck out? I don't know how it works. But I don't know how spiders work either. Apparently,
Yeah,
but I know they don't have. But I know they don't have
Those
beaks.
who live in glass houses should not throw stones, Logan.
I know they don't have beaks.
Yeah,
But
they don't
what?
have beaks,
And they don't have horns. They don't have horns, do they? Not really. But I also kind of wonder, like, is Tolkien just sort of like imagining something horrible, or is he kind of like imagining a spider and it's like, well, they have all these like weird appendages and they're so, famously he and C.S. Lewis both just hated spiders. C.S. Lewis saw spiders as horrific because they're kind of mechanical, and like, the way that a spider moves is they pump their own bodily fluids into their legs, and that's what causes the leg. So it's almost more like a hydraulic. It's like more like a machine, and that's what freaked C.S. Lewis out about spiders.
Humphrey Carpenter makes a point of talking about how one of Tolkien's earliest memories is being chased by a gigantic spider in what would become South Africa. Yeah. I always thought that was a little bit of a stretch. Like, it's like, all right, like we don't have to like get into Tolkien psychology here and be like, oh, the reason why Shelob is like this terrifying thing is because he was terrified of spiders as a child. It's like, most people don't like spiders. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
You're like evolutionarily conditioned to sort of be
we don't like
because
spiders.
They're poisonous, right? Same thing with snakes, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I can kind of dig the idea of like young Tolkien like running away from a huge spider in South Africa and that being like but I think it's more he's working off his like existing like mythological stories of Ungoliant. And Ungoliant's not going to get published at this point, so he's like, okay, I'm going to like really lay in on Shelob.
Put it into Shelob, yeah.
Anyway, this enormous creature who is smelly, impervious, terrible. She's just been pricked by Sam, but she's not killed. And she goes back to like defeat Sam. And it says that no little bite of poison to still the struggling of her meat, this time to slay and then to rend. So like this isn't even about like food for her. She's like, I'm just gonna like destroy this little guy. But Sam faces her down, even though he's terrified. And it says, even as Sam himself crouched looking at her, seeing his death in her eyes, a thought came to him, as if some remote voice had spoken, and he fumbled in his breast with his left hand and found what he sought. Cold and hard and solid it seemed to his touch, in a phantom world of horror, the phial of Gladriel. So here again, this is the third time now that Frodo and Sam were like, that's right, the phial of Gladriel. I have it on me. I can use this.
Yeah.
And he says faintly, Galadriel, and he begins to sing in a language that he doesn't understand. But this inspires Sam. He calls out for Galadriel. And it's almost like Galadriel then in turn fills him with this Elvish language. And the same thing happened in last chapter when they're in the darkness in the tunnel. Frodo starts speaking Elvish words that he doesn't understand too.
Right.
And it's almost like he's being given it by, a force beyond himself, a power greater than himself.
After he says these things, even though he doesn't know the language, and that also I think connects to something we've talked about regarding Tolkien before, that like language itself kind of, it's not just a signifier of something else. It like contains its own magic.
Yes.
And it says, with that he staggered to his feet, and was Samwise the Hobbit, ham fast son, again. So he's like returned to himself somehow. He like becomes whole. And then he says, now come, you filth, he cried.
Yeah.
And he just is, indomitable, you know? He's just
And he
so
still doesn't
it's
know that Frodo is like dead at
even a
this point.
lot. Does he know? I mean, what does he know about Frodo at this point?
I
Does he
think
know?
he says, "You've hurt my master and you'll pay
Mhm.
for it.
Yeah, interesting.
We're going on, but we'll settle with you first. Come on and taste it again." So he's like saying like, "Hey, me and my buddy, we're about to go." So he doesn't seem to know that Frodo is like deathly hurt here.
Yeah.
And it says, as if his indomitable spirit had set its potency in motion, the glass blazed suddenly like a white torch in his hand. It flamed like a star that, leaping from the firmament, sears the dark air with intolerable light. And this is what causes Shelob to run away. And she runs back to her hole, you know, just like leaking poison in her wake. Just
Yeah.
disgusting. Shelob was gone, and whether she lay long in her lair, nursing her malice and her misery, and in slow years of darkness healed herself from within, rebuilding her clustered eyes, until with hunger like death she spun once more her dreadful snares in the glens of the mountains of shadow, this tale does not tell.
Yeah.
So it's like this like self-referential, like we're in a story.
Right.
This kind of reminds me of like how the narrator works in The Hobbit more than
Yeah.
in Lord of the Rings.
That's
Has
really
got this like
interesting.
kind of fairy tale,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, well, if you had heard half of what I heard of Gandalf, then
Right. And
that would surely be a lot.
it's more like a person telling you a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I wanted to note that, you know, Frodo holds up the file of Galadriel in the when they're in the tunnel, and it and it assaults her. But here it's even more terrible to her. No such terror out of heaven had ever burned in Shelob's face before.
And it's not even like in the darkness, you know, the light, if you like shine like a spotlight, you can imagine it being kind of overwhelming. If you're
Right.
they're out in the open.
This is overwhelming, even out in the open. And then it assaults her mind. Her sight was blasted by inner lightnings, her mind in agony. So
Oh,
he assaults her physically, and then he assaults her mentally, right, with
yeah.
this power of the elves. And I kind of wonder, you know, we've connected the kind of power of the file to the hope of the person who bears it.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's like Sam's hope, his anger, his sacrifice, his like willingness to sacrifice himself for Frodo, right? Like is like channeled through Galadriel's file. What a great moment. And then, but then Sam turns once she leaves. He can turn and kind of attend to Frodo.
It says Sam was left alone. Wearily, as the evening of the nameless land fell upon the place of battle, he crawled back to his master. And he says, "Master, master." But Frodo does not speak. So Frodo's been stung by Shelob. And as far as Sam knows, he's just sleeping. He tries to rouse him. "Master, dear master." And he says that he puts his head to Frodo's breast to listen for his heartbeat and puts his ear to his mouth to listen for breath, but no stir of life could he find, nor feel the faintest flutter of the heart. Often he chafed his master's hands and feet and touched his brow, but all were cold. And this line, I think, is probably one of the most devastating in the whole book. "Frodo, Mr. Frodo," he called. "Don't leave me here alone. It's your Sam calling. Don't go where I can't follow. Wake up, Mr. Frodo. Oh, wake up, Frodo, my dear, my dear. Wake up." And this is where he goes through like all these different stages of,
Yeah, grief.
first he's angry. He stabs the air and smites the stones and shouts challenges. And he realizes, like, while he's in this moment of anger, he remembers that he had a vision of this in Gladriel's mirror. Do you remember that from
Yeah,
the Mirror of Gladriel chapter? I'd forgotten about this.
I forgot it until I read it here, but I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
And he realizes that what he saw in the mirror was not Frodo sleeping, but Frodo dead. And this is what leads him to just fall to the ground. And it says, and a black despair came down on him. And he draws his gray hood over his head. And night comes into his heart. And he knows no more. And he wakes up and he finds himself in the same place. And he seems like almost surprised that the world hasn't ended.
Yeah,
Such a relatable, like, human emotion, right? When this like person who you love dies and you're like, why is everyone just like going about their day? Like, how is it that the mountains haven't fallen into the sea?
Yeah.
Like, how is the sun still shining? This something so devastating happens to you, and things just continue to move on. It says he was still in the same place, and still his master lay beside him dead. The mountains had not crumbled, nor the earth fallen into ruin. What shall I do? What shall I do? He said. Should I come all this way with him for nothing? And then he remembered his own voice speaking words that at the time he did not understand himself at the beginning of their journey. I have something to do before the end. I must see it through, sir, if you understand.
I think that question that he asks, repeatedly here, what shall I do? What shall I do? But what can I do? And that, that's what he's asking himself. How do I go on after, this kind of North Star relationship
Yeah.
is gone? And how do I go on if I go on? But it's interesting how he comes closer to like his vocation and then further away and then closer and then further away. But he starts out close with a line that he continuously comes back to. I have something to do before the end. I must see it through. So that's the question that runs through all of this. And it's like a rhythm. It's kind of in each paragraph. His heart keeping a debate. Like he, pondered these things in his heart, maybe.
You know what I compared this to, like in my notes here? I think we've identified this a few times in the story where, and maybe this is like a little insight into how like Tolkien himself made decisions or like how his mind worked.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's him just kind of like preventing someone from being like, well, why didn't they just do this? Which people still do. Maybe he like, but he just has this like very logical way of like laying out problems where he essentially lays out like every possible solution or every possible outcome, every possible choice. And then he narrows it down always to like only one that could be the case.
It's kind of that funnel that we talked about in Rivendell,
the funnel,
right?
Yeah, the Council of Elrond funnel, where it's like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, or we could do this. We can't do option A because of this. We can't do option B because of this, which leaves only one logical choice. Choice C, Faramir kind of had a similar thing where he's just like, he's using, we called it like his like Sherlock Holmes kind of like deduction. These powers, like, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, but actually even though you didn't tell me, I know that it's a ring that was made by Sauron and Isildur wanted to keep it, but it betrayed Isildur, and now it's come to you and you have to destroy it. He's able to like kind of deductively work his way down. Sam works through like so many options. He's like, I could run off and I could just sit here, or I could run off and I can kill Gollum. Right?
Yeah, right.
I can just stand by you, and like as the enemies come, I can make a pile of bodies and have a last heroic stand.
Mm-hmm.
Most disturbingly, he says, I can just jump into a ravine or fall on my sword. So he's trying to decide. He's like, I could go and I could kill Gollum, but he decides like, no, actually, that won't change anything. It won't bring him back.
Yeah, vengeance is a lonely journey. It's literally what, it says, I could go on a lonely journey for vengeance. And then, it wouldn't bring him back. Nothing would. They had better both be dead. They had better both be dead together. And that too would be a lonely journey. And then that leads him to like, well, maybe we both should be dead if Frodo's dead.
Maybe we just die together. It's like almost like a Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, contemplates the point of his sword.
He thought of the places behind where there was a black brink and an empty fall into nothingness. He says, but there was no escape that way. That was to do nothing, not even to grieve.
And the question comes up again. What am I to do then?
Yeah.
To see it through. He comes back to that. See it through. What does see it through mean for Sam, right?
Which I guess is like to take it to the cracks of doom, but he goes, another lonely journey in the worst. So he's like, I have like no good options here. He's like, I could go back, I could kill Gollum, but that won't bring him back. I could fall on my own sword like Turnbar did. But that would be worse than doing nothing, because that wouldn't even be grieving. That would just be choosing to do.
Yeah, I couldn't even grieve.
But he's like, that would be a lonely journey. And he's like, well, the other option is for me to like become the ring bearer. And that's ultimately what he decides to do. You know, he like, as he's like having this like debate, this inner debate in his own heart, he's prepared Frodo's body. He's laid his own sword by his side. And I guess this is the barrow blade that he's laying on his side. When it says he laid his own sword at his side, that's Sam's sword he's laying. He takes Sting with him.
A sting is a more powerful sword, I guess.
More useful. And he lays Faramir's staff at his side as well. But he takes the star glass. He says, your star glass, Mr. Frodo. You did lend it to me and I'll need it. So he's almost like making the justification. It's not, I'm not stealing this. You did lend it to me for a while.
You gave it to me, yeah.
And, you know, I'm not good enough for it. And the lady gave it to you, but not to me. But I think she'd understand and you would understand too. And he goes, I've got to go on. Through that kind of like funnel that we've identified, this like logical decision making, he decides that he has to take the ring and he has to go on to the cracks of doom. But he's still filled with self-doubt. He's like, you know, like surely the council like would not be okay with me doing this. But he's like, but what else am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to like take it back to Rivendell?
No.
He's like, am I supposed to just leave it here and then the forces of evil will come and take it and then it'll all be over and then there won't be a Rivendell or a Shire? He says, let me see now. If we're found here, or Mr. Frodo's found, and that thing's on him, well, the enemy will get it. And that's the end of us all, of Lorien, Rivendell, the Shire, and all. And there's no time to lose, or it'll be the end anyway. The war's begun, and more than likely things are going the enemy's way already. No chance to go back with it and get advice or permission. No, it's sit here till they come and kill me over my master's body and get it, or I take it and go. He drew a deep breath. Then take it is. So that's kind of his like inevitable, that's the end of the funnel. He has to take it, even though it's the last thing he wants to do. Here's the part that you mentioned earlier, Frodo, this moment of reaching over Frodo's body and gently kissing his forehead. And as he does so, he takes the chain from over Frodo's head. And it says that he notices that Frodo's face doesn't change as he removes the burden from him. And that's kind of his like last piece of evidence that Frodo has laid aside the quest. And he vows to Frodo that if he makes it to the end, he'll come back and he'll recover his body.
And if the lady could hear me and give me one wish, I would wish to come back and find you again.
Goodbye.
When he puts the ring on, the burden immediately is on him.
Drags him to the ground as if it's a great stone that's been strung around his neck.
Yeah. But I think this is such a beautiful description. But slowly, as if the weight became less, or new strength grew in him, and then with a great effort got to his feet and found that he could walk and bear his burden.
And he looks back and he sees Frodo. He sees that his face is fair, pale but beautiful with an elvish beauty, as of one who is long past the shadows. And with the bitter comfort of that last sight, Sam turned and hid the light and stumbled on into the growing dark. He moves forward with difficulty, just full of self-doubt.
Yeah, he's never really resolved completely and happy with his choice.
No, he makes this like logical choice. He's like, I'm the only one that can do it. If I don't do it, everything will be destroyed. So I have to leave Frodo and I have to go and do this on my own. But there's always something in the back of his head that's like, hey, you got to turn back. Like not leaving Frodo is your quest. Okay. Frodo's quest is to destroy the ring. Not leaving Frodo is your quest. But he's like almost like fighting with his own. He's like his heart and his logic are fighting with one another.
Yeah, it says that it's against the grain of his nature, the choice he's made.
He goes, I've made up my mind, but he had not. Though he had done his best to think it out, what he was doing was altogether against the grain of his nature. Have I got it wrong? He muttered. What ought to I have done? So he's just like being ripped apart by this decision. He's like, I've made up my mind, but in the back of his mind, he knows he's lying to himself. He hasn't made up his mind.
Yeah. Well, as he tries to walk away, it says it's the heaviest and most reluctant steps he had ever taken.
Yeah.
You're just like, geez, Louise.
And he sees this tower of Cirith Ungol ahead of him, and he sees that the red light is still burning. This like eye of watchfulness. Like we're about to find out in a minute. They have not gone unnoticed.
No.
And they've not exactly been subtle either. I mean, they've been
It's a huge battle that happened, and all kinds of yelling and
flashes of light and screaming. But we find out in a minute they've been seen really the moment they got onto the path. They've been watched. It's just that people were distracted. This battle was starting, so they didn't have time to go and check and see if these little guys were walking up the stair. But they've been watched this whole time. But only a few steps on, he hears orc voices. It says, orcs were coming up the cleft on the far side from some entry to the tower, perhaps, tramping feet and shouts behind. He wheeled around. He saw red lights, torches winking away. Below, there were as they issued from the tunnel. At last, the hunt was up. The red eye of the tower had not been blind. He was caught. And so there are orc forces coming from in front of him, from the tower, and there are orc forces that are coming up the stairs and through the tunnel that he just came through.
Yep.
So kind of they were noticed as they were going through Minas Morgul, and they were noticed by this tower, Cirith Ungol. So they were noticed on both sides, and there's kind of this meeting of like two orc bands. He says in a minute there's 30 or 40 of them from one side, and then even more coming up from the city. So it's a terrifying thing, and he's left with no other choice. He has to put the ring on, and that's what he does.
I think the way that the description of the world here, when he puts the ring on, says a lot about the ring, and it says a lot about the I don't know, psychology or spiritual condition of Sauron, where a single moment of time was filled with an hour of thought. So it's like a lens or something that kind of distorts time. But this is the part I think is so fascinating. All things about him now were not dark but vague. While he himself was there in a gray, hazy world, alone like a small black solid rock.
Yeah. And the ring, like weighing down his left hand, was like an orb of hot gold.
Yeah. So the world becomes vague, but you yourself become solid, more solid than you actually are.
Yeah.
And the ring itself is like the most, it's like the most real thing in its own reality.
Yeah.
And then you don't feel invisible. You feel enhanced, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Horribly and uniquely visible.
Yeah. And
then it says that, he knew the eye. It gives you like a awareness of the eye. But I think that the more power you get, the more it makes you feel like you're more real than the things around you.
Yeah.
And Sauron believes that he is the end of creation. Like he's the reason the world exists in some way,
right.
and that he should dominate it. And I think that this description kind of shows that you're like a black solid rock in a vague world. Like the world, whether it exists or not, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that I exist. I'm the one with the ring. I'm the one with the power. I'm the person who's horribly and uniquely visible compared to everything else around me.
And I think a constant question and we've definitely asked ourselves this question, which is so hilarious because Lord of the Rings is like probably the most poured over, like best thought out document in the world. And then so many people, people get to the end of the book and they're like, all right, so what is the ring?
What does the ring actually do?
Like what? But here, I think it you can kind of see why somebody would want it. Like it does actually bring like extra sensory power. It reminds me of, do you remember when Frodo put on the ring? And is he wearing the ring when he's sitting on top of Amon Hen?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
And he gets these visions of like the swarming
see far off
orcs,
and all that.
And he's able to see like, Rohan. He's able to, like it gives him like kind of this like extra sensory experience.
He is, because Gandalf tells him to take it off.
Take it off, fool. Take it off. That's right.
It gives you powers, and Sam can like hear really well.
And he can understand languages that he doesn't know.
Right. He can understand. It translates or it gives him understanding.
Which is a very clever way, I think, just narratively for Tolkien to like allow us to know what the orcs are saying.
Yeah, through a
Because
rock wall.
yeah, I mean, or just like, we don't speak the orc speech, so he has to find a way for us to be able to understand their dialogue. In the Merry and Pippin chapter, when they're being taken to Isengard, the kind of like in plot reason that Merry and Pippin are able to understand the orcs is that these are two different species of orcs, and so they have
Right.
to,
Speak
and they're
a
from like
common
different
tongue.
parts of the world. They have to speak the common language in order for them to. So it's the language that Merry and Pippin understand. In this case, they're not speaking common language; they're speaking orc speech. Sam is just able to understand them because he's wearing the ring. He's able to bend his mind to understand these servants of Sauron.
Right.
And it even says, I mean, we just learned so much about it, like just in this short bit. Like, he hears them speaking clearly. It says, perhaps the ring gave understanding of tongues, or simply understanding, especially of the servants of Sauron, its maker, so that if he gave heed, he understood and translated the thought to himself. That's a powerful tool.
It is.
He's reading the minds of these orcs.
Yeah.
And then there's this line that I underlined here. It says, certainly the ring had grown greatly in power as it approached the places of its forging, but one thing it did not confer, and that was courage.
Fascinating.
Sam is like, he's recognizing like, okay, not only is this thing getting heavier, it's also getting more potent and more powerful.
Yeah.
So all he can do now is just, hidden by the invisibility of the ring, listen in on these terrible conversations. And I don't think we should spend too much time like kind of like parsing.
No, we don't need to belabor it, I don't think.
But we learn a lot of things. We have these like two groups of orcs, both of which are just terrible. There's
they're gross in different ways. It's kind of interesting.
There's like spies in their midst, and so they have to be careful what they say out loud. They don't trust, so we got like kind of like two main characters here. We got Gorbag and Shagrat, and one of them is from Minas Morgul and one of them is from Cirith Ungol, and both of them don't think that either is very good at their jobs.
Yeah.
But so it's almost like water cooler talk, where they're just like complaining about the big bosses. There's also mention of Lugberts. Did you look up Lugberts?
So I couldn't decide if Lugberts was a person or a place.
Lugbers is a place.
Place, okay.
It is Barad-dûr. It is the Dark Tower.
Oh, interesting. So this is like the orc word for the Dark Tower?
This is the orc word for the Dark Tower.
I see.
And it's kind of used as a stand-in for Sauron.
I see. Yeah.
Gorbag mentions that he like doesn't trust the big bosses, which is basically the Nazgul. And Shagrat tells him to shush. He goes, they may make mistakes, essentially, but they've got eyes and ears everywhere, some among my lot as like as not. But there's no doubt about it. They're troubled about something. The Nazgul down below are, by your account, and Lugbert's is too. Something nearly slipped. So they like indicate like, hey, something's up, So it's like the Nazgul down in Minas Morgul are worried that something's gone wrong, and Sauron himself in the Dark Tower is also worried. And so it seems like they've been like given word down in Minas Morgul, hey, like go up the path and see if there are spies that came through. And the people who are watching in Cirith Ungol with the red window, they also see Gollum coming and going. And they're like, hey, Lugberts, Barad-dûr, let the sneak, which I think is such an interesting word for him. Maybe that's Sam's own like translation happening in his head. But they're like, the sneak is back, and he's been back a couple of times the last couple of days, and we really didn't give him much mind because, he probably wouldn't be much good for Shelob to eat anyway, and we were told to kind of let him come and go. But he's been back a lot, and now this calamity has happened with like lights and battles, and there must be some elf warrior about, because, and he's probably got a big fancy sword and an axe. He must be like some spy on the loose. He's like a damned rebel, it says. is this like one of the first curse words in all of Lord of the Rings? That's worse than noodle.
Yeah, it is for sure. I think that the phrase "something has slipped" is interesting, but there's so much mistrust between all these orcs and like
Yeah.
they're not gonna communicate with each other well, right? Because nobody wants to be the person who makes the mistake that
Gets them reported back to the big
gets the
bosses.
report, yeah, to the big boss, because they all live in fear.
Yeah, they'll be sent to Shelob and hung upside down. And
Right. And so, but they also, I think because of that, they like anything that could slip through, they sort of like overestimate what it is, you know?
yeah, it must have been like a real powerful thing if it was able to get past
Yeah,
us.
it was probably a large elf warrior, right? And with elf tricks, and it can't be because we're incompetent idiots. It's because some like hero out of legend came, and meanwhile, meanwhile it's Sam,
It's the little guy,
right?
with his little light and his little sword. There's a moment of like sweetness that I underlined here, where Gorbag and Shagrat are talking to each other. Gorbag says to Shagrat, "If it does go well, there should be a lot more room. What do you say? If we get a chance, you and me will slip off and set up somewhere on our own with a few trusty lads. Somewhere where there's good loot, nice and handy, and no big bosses." And Shagrat says, "Ah, like old times." So it's like, he's like, the orcs were all spread out, and then now they've been kind of called back to their battle stations. And I just think there's something strange and sweet about Gorbag saying to Shagrat, like, "Hey, how about at the end of this thing, you and I get ourselves a nice little piece of land, and we set up like a nice little place where we can pillage and loot, and we can be happy again."
They don't want to start a farm and live honestly, but wouldn't
No,
it be nice to be? We could just be raiders, just
we can
simple
just go
raiders.
back. Just go back to looting and pillaging like we always
Yeah,
did in the
the
good
good
old
old
times.
days.
So it seems like, like the timing of everything is what has allowed Frodo and Sam and Gollum to pass through.
Yes.
They pass at just the right time. So even though they kind of like trip the sensors of these silent watchers and an alarm is sent up, it's bad timing for Minas Morgul because they've just been given the signal to march.
Yeah, it literally says that says that the signal went out from Mount Doom.
So the tower at Cirith Ungol got a message that says, "Nazgul uneasy. Spies feared on stairs. Double vigilance. Patrol to head of stairs." Okay. So they've gotten this sent to them from, the tower, Lugberts. And Gorbag responds, "Our silent watchers were uneasy more than 2 days ago, but my patrol wasn't ordered out for another day, nor any message sent to Lugberts either, owing to the great signal going up and the high Nazgul going off to war and all that. And then they couldn't get Lugberts to pay attention for a good while, I'm told." And Shagrat says, "The eye was busy elsewhere, I suppose. Big things going on away west, they say." It's just fortuitous timing that they're even able to get this far. This is not an unguarded path. It wasn't unguarded by Shelob. It wasn't unguarded at the entrance to the Winding Stair back in Minas Morgul, and it was not unguarded at the tower at the end of the stair either, at the end of the tunnel. So it's triple guarded, and they've only been able to get past because of good luck. The timing for them to march to war happened at exactly the moment that they would be able to slip past unnoticed. They're kind of constantly like stepping through these hazards at like the exact moment where and a lot of times they're held up in like calamitous ways, be it the death of Gandalf or Gandalf not showing up in the Shire. And, so that they are delayed. But it happens to be that if they don't have the delay, they would have been
Yeah, exactly.
destroyed.
That's what I was going to say, that they're always kind of worried that like, oh, I took too much time. We should have set off right away, but
Yeah.
it still ends up working out for them, Yeah.
Yeah. It not even like working out, where it was like no other way could it have, like they would not have been able to get past the Silent Watchers unless the call from Mount Doom and
Yeah, went out when
Barad-dûr
it
came
did.
up at that exact time.
Right. Right.
So they were delayed in like having this group of orcs is like kind of on their tail coming up these stairs,
Yeah, absolutely.
and yeah, it's just And here's the other one. Okay. Sam makes the wrong choice. He decides to be the ring bearer and he leaves Frodo. If he hadn't made that wrong choice in the time that he had, he would have been caught between these two parties of orcs.
Yep.
Hammer, meet anvil, Sam in between. If he hadn't made the wrong choice, he wouldn't have had the presence of mind to pull aside and put the ring on and follow after them and learn all this information. So like even calamitous choices in Tolkien always are the exact thing that has to happen in order for the quest to succeed.
Yeah.
That's what fate is in Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So he learns all this information, and he listens to Gorbag and Shagrat. Do you remember the name of the orcs in the Merry and Pippin orc chapter? I went back and looked it up because I was like, oh my gosh, aren't these like they're equally gross names?
No, I don't remember.
Ugluk, Grishnok, Lugdush, Snaga, and a few others.
Of course.
And now we got Gorbag and Shagrat. Oh, it's terrible names.
He really puts. I kind of wonder, like, what was Tolkien's process? Because like, they're like names that like stop in the middle or something. Like they don't have like a natural.
Yeah, it's like they get caught in your throat.
Sound, yeah, like there's
like lots of glugging kind of noises,
right? Like the vowel and the consonant are like out of order or something.
Yeah, it's harsh and it's kind of gross sounding stuff. But all of this talk leads to, and if we were writing this story, this is where we just jump to. Leads to Sam finding out that Frodo isn't dead.
Yep.
Shagrat says that any trespasser found by the guard is to be held at the tower. Prisoners to be stripped. Full description of every article, garment, weapon, letter, ring, or trinket is to be sent to Lugberts at once, and to Lugberts only. And the prisoner is to be kept safe and intact under pain of death for every member of the guard until he, with a capital H, sins or comes himself with a capital H. That's plain enough, and that's what I'm going to do. And Gorbag is terrible. He's like, oh, so we're supposed to like take out all of his like hair and teeth and nails and all that too. And Shagrat is like, no, none of that. He's wanted safe and whole. And Gorbag is like, well, that'll be difficult because his butt's dead. And Shagrat's like, no, you idiot. And so Gorbag like may not know this because, as I understand it, he's the orc from Minas Morgul. So he doesn't know anything about Shelob. But Shagrat has to like fill him in and be like, you are a fool. Shelob, what she does, she puts a little dab of poison on him, and it looks completely like they're dead, but they're not dead. Says when she binds with cords, she's after meat. She doesn't eat dead meat, nor suck cold blood. This fellow isn't dead.
I want to touch on don't trust your head, Samwise. It's not the best part of you. So Sam hears this, and he felt as if the whole dark world was turning upside down. And then he says, you fool, he isn't dead, and your heart knew it. Don't trust your head, Samwise. It's not the best part of you, which is the gaffer talking in his brain. The trouble with you is you never really had any hope.
Yeah. Which is just so not true. I mean,
it's just completely not true. He's like the most hopeful person in the party.
Yeah, he's never given up hope.
No.
But it is true that this was like, it was the wrong decision made at the right time. It's his fate. It's the fate of the whole company to get the ring into those cracks of doom. And when you make the wrong decision, no, you didn't. Because like fate is going to get that ring destroyed. Like in spite of you. All you have to do is just keep showing up.
Yeah, it's providence. Providence rises to, right.
It's doom. It's fate.
Right, to your faithful action.
You're going to get as far as you can, and you're going to fail, and then God's going to pull you over the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's Tolkien's whole theology right there. Sam says, I got it all wrong. I knew I would. Now they've got him, the devils, the filth. Never leave your master. Never, never. That was my right rule, and I knew it in my heart. May I be forgiven. Now I've got to get back to him somehow. The news that his master was still alive roused him to a last effort beyond thought and weariness. And so he, still wearing the ring, chases after Shagrat and Gorbag.
Shagrat and Gorbag.
And he hears them say that they're going to bring Frodo to the top of this tower, the Tower of Cirith, which is where the next time we meet Frodo in a couple hundred pages, that's where we'll meet him.
Mm-hmm.
He says, up to the top, I say, he'll be safe there. And Sam says, Willie, you're forgetting the big elvish warrior that's loose. And he runs after. And the orcs pass through a gate. And Sam charges forward so fast that he runs into it and knocks himself out cold. Says the great door slammed to. Boom! The bars of iron fell into place inside. Clang! The gate was shut. Sam hurled himself against the bolted brazen plates and fell senseless to the ground. He was out in the darkness. Frodo was alive, but taken by the enemy.
I feel sad.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of this project. Well, thanks so much for reading along with us this week and through the entire volume of The Two Towers. We'll see you back in a few weeks when we pick up with Return of the King. If you like the podcast, be sure and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube. Give us a like and a follow. Leave us a comment. We love when you leave your comments on YouTube. If you want to learn more about the project, you can go to waywardwizards.com, or you can email us at info@waywardwizards.com.
We'll see you when we're back with Return of the King. Can't wait.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.